Magnificent Monday morning, all of you out there in beautiful Texas. It is still beautiful Texas, even though the sun isn't shining today, which leads me to believe that it's true that into each life some rain must fall. And one of the things I must admit is that we have needed some rain here in Texas for a little while. But each time you've asked me what kind of day did I have, and you find out that the answer is the same all the time. I'm off to a good start because I woke up this morning. I had a nice breakfast. My dogs are with me this morning. It's a little bit, I think in some places they might call it chilly. And in other places, they might call it cold. And I think if I'm speaking to my Hispanic friends, it's just muy frío. However it is, I woke up this morning. I had a nice breakfast. My dogs are in rare form this morning. You wouldn't even know I had dogs this morning because you don't hear them. And all is well. But over the weekend, I started noticing, and I think it's something that I had probably noticed all along, is that a lot of people have a lot of complaints, and they're really about nothing. And I guess it's because of how things were defined for me. And I know by now you know what my favorite definition is, the one that my mom gave, and that was that we didn't have any money, but we were never poor. And as I say to you every time I woke up this morning, my stomach is full. And Texas is beautiful. And even though the sun isn't shining today, Texas is still beautiful. And it's still here. But I find myself kind of listening to the news that is so repetitive. And they tend to give you all the bad news. And you find that they dredge up stuff on people that's been there for ages. And I guess one of the things I'm thinking of right now is that they have been giving Mr. Biden the blues forever. And it's about something that was there when he got into office. It had been there for more than 2 years, not 2 years, 10 years. And for everything that he is trying to do, there's somebody who is, instead of picking up and trying to help him and saying, look, where we are now, they're doing everything they can to kick him down. And one of the things you wonder is, how can one of the people, and heaven knows at this point in time, I really don't want to say anything bad about you know who. And but the thing is, he makes it very difficult for you not to say something good, because he doesn't feel that he has to follow the rules. And one of the things I wonder is how that those of us who have a voice, and that is, you are an American. And because you are an American, there are rules that are made to protect us, to help us to continue to be free, to continue to be good neighbors, to help us to continue to make this the great country that it was 300 years ago. And that's not so hard to do if the 3.34 million people that one person is allowed to speak for them, to them, about them. How do you do that? How is this same person able to come forward having had his name up for impeachment twice, and the people with voices say nothing? How do you do that? The young people at this last election, the young people who were voting for the first or second time, they used their voices and they said, "Hold, enough. This is America. We are not going to allow this to happen." And how can one person, and somehow or other, when I say sometimes I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but sometimes I do remember that how is he able to come forward and say that I am going to run for that second 4 years, to which they said I said I could be president for 8 years if I wanted to, but I have to win the second election. So how can he do that? And he's been up for impeachment twice. Wasn't impeached, but the idea that he had impeachable items, and nobody is saying, "Hold, enough." What about the children in school? And when you can have an 8th grader say to you, "Well, according to the Declaration of Independence and the rules by which we are supposedly going forward, how are we going to allow this to happen?" We're talking 2% of the population being guided by, 2% of the population making the rules by which 98% of the population is ruled. I ask you, is that right? That's like taking a jar of water and putting 1 drop of clear water in it and saying to it, "Now, these 2 drops are going to affect this whole jar." It doesn't work like that. Even in the really bad places, something can come along and you can bring some kind of fairness. You can bring some kind of something to the table that's going to make a difference. Again, I ask, what are we leaving for my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren? And now I am looking at my grandchildren who are at an age now when they could run for public office. Can you believe it? And pretty soon, my great-grandchildren, we were talking the other day, and I said something to my grandchild, my great-grandchild, and she didn't respond. And I said so and so, and you didn't say anything. I'm talking to you. And she very glibly, right off the top of her head, said, Gigi, I heard you, but I wasn't listening. Now, when you come to the table like that, it means that you are reaching a point where you are getting some of the substance or lack thereof with which you are going to come forward and say, this is the way it should be, or this is the way I see it. What you are doing is wrong. And I remember when I was a kid sometimes, one of the things that would be said was, you don't talk to grown folks that way. And of course, you bite your tongue and you go away and you hope that you can get away without being smacked. And of course, smacking a kid now is just considered criminal. But sometimes you got to get somebody's attention before you can do anything for them. Either that or you administer what is being administered fairly, and you allow the person to whom you are admitting or administering something to have something to do, which is administered. Now, the word administered, that sounds a lot better than given to. And somehow or other, a lot of people, when you say, I've given you something, it means that because you're given something, that you have nothing to say about it. Well, if what you are giving me is not good for me, or I don't think it's good for me, or you haven't made me see or helped me to see that I need what you're doing, something's wrong. And of the people, for the people, by the people. When you think about Washington, D.C., and that there are 100 people who sit at a table making rules by which is it 3? I can't remember, but an enormous number of people are ruled. There's something wrong when those people, without regard for anyone except them and theirs, that means the people where there are 2 lines perhaps that are being represented, that's not right. And I think of the one time when I was flying into New York and I saw the Statue of Liberty, and I can remember that on the bottom there it talks about, give me your tired, you're hungry, your huddled, wretched masses longing to be free. And I don't think there's been a lot of change to the number of people that are coming into that harbor. But the thing is that those huddle masses that are longing to be free, they are asking to be heard. They're asking to be sat at the table where we have the same access, in that because I drive a big car, live in a big house, went to college, have an advanced degree, that my mother, who did not have this, but she trained me in such a way that I had access to this. And when you see the number of huddle masses coming into that same harbor, it lets you know that in spite of the fact that they come from a beloved country, that the country from which they are coming to be free, things must be really, really bad that they are willing to leave what they knew to come here and aspire to what we have here. And it's not all about what you have. A lot of it has to do with what are you giving? What are you able to give? What are you willing to share? And if I have 5 of something and there are 100 people behind me who have nothing, what does that say about me? That I'm not willing to share that with them. And that was something that my mother always taught me, that whatever you have, you're able to share it. And when I think of her, we didn't have any money, but we were never poor. And my son, who went to my home from which I came, and he said to me, "Mama, don't say that. You weren't poor. Y'all was poor." And I laugh about that because you realize that wealth is really, does it mean having stuff? We did not have any stuff, but I don't ever remember going to bed hungry. I don't ever remember going to bed cold. I don't remember ever needing someone with whom to talk and not having somebody to tell me it's going to be all right. And I think that someplace along the way, we are going to have to get back to the table, to that time when we are looking at those who are longing to be free and throw out a welcome mat to them. Like my dog. He's saying, you know what he's saying to me? He's saying, "You've said enough. Tell all of our neighbors to have a good day." And keep smiling.